Lecture 8 covers Chapter 7, The Illusion of Control. Who is truly vulnerable? The chapter takes the AI Act's vulnerability prohibition seriously but critically. Article 5.1b targets AI systems that exploit vulnerabilities linked to age, disability, or a specific social or economic situation. The chapter asks whether that language captures the reality of digital manipulation. The chapter begins with a recurring theme. Digital design can exploit genuine psychological vulnerabilities while users believe they remain in control. Social media, games, shopping platforms, and apps often present choices as voluntary, yet the environment may have been engineered to maximize engagement, spending, or dependency. The illusion of control arises when users see options, clicks, and settings, but fail to see the architecture that made some choices more likely. The chapter breaks Article 5.1b into constitutive elements, placing on the market, putting into service or use of an AI system, exploitation of vulnerabilities of a natural person or group, vulnerability due to age, disability, or specific social or economic situation, objective or effect of materially distorting behavior, and significant harm. Each element must work with the others. The cumulative structure makes the prohibition quite demanding in practice. The chapter pays particular attention to children. Children can face manipulative game mechanics, in-app purchases, reward loops, social pressure, and content ranking that intensify insecurity. The issue is not simply that children lack information. Their developmental stage can make them more susceptible to scarcity, status pressure, variable rewards, and blurred boundaries between play and spending. Regulation must therefore examine how systems design around immaturity, dependence, and identity formation. The chapter also considers disability in specific social or economic situations. A system may exploit cognitive limitations, mental distress, financial desperation, limited literacy, or dependence on the service. The phrase specific social or economic situation becomes crucial because it can capture vulnerability created by poverty, employment insecurity, housing stress, or market dependence. But the wording also raises uncertainty about which conditions qualify and how narrowly regulators will interpret the category. A major contribution of the chapter lies in its attention to groups. AI systems often operate through pattern recognition. They may not target a named individual with malice, but they can systematically disadvantage groups or exploit group-level correlations. Article 5.1b must therefore address both individual cases and structural patterns. Otherwise, manipulation that emerges statistically, gradually, or at scale may evade accountability. The chapter then connects Article 5.1a and 5.1b. Article 5.1a focuses on methods such as subliminal or manipulative techniques. Article 5.1b focuses on exploitation of vulnerability. The provisions overlap where a covert technique targets vulnerable users, but they remain analytically distinct. The chapter argues for outcome-based accountability because AI systems can produce harmful manipulation even without malicious intent. The use cases test the prohibition. A recruitment platform suppresses opportunities for women returning from maternity leave. A therapy chatbot detects distress and markets expensive premium services while hiding free alternatives. A teen mental health app amplifies insecurity through infinite scroll, recommendations, and targeted advertising. Each case exposes a tension between the regulator's view of exploitation and the developer's view of natural or neutral personalization or business practice. This leaves us with 4 audit questions, a practical checklist for regulators, researchers, and designers to think about when dealing with vulnerability with systems. Which vulnerability does the system use? Is the group protected by the wording? Is the harm individual, collective, or structural? And can causation be shown when harm emerges over time? These are 4 very challenging questions, and I hope this chapter helps you understand the difficulties in pursuing not only answers to these questions, but regulation that addresses the harms from targeting people based upon their vulnerabilities. The cases demonstrate why Article 5.1b will be hard to enforce. Regulators must prove vulnerability, exploitation, distortion, harm, causation. Developers can argue that the user remained free, that the system merely responded to preferences, or that harm resulted from broader social conditions. The chapter's concern is that evidential thresholds may protect sophisticated manipulation, especially when harm manifests or cumulative pressure rather than immediate coercion. Chapter 7 therefore asks whether the law understands vulnerability deeply enough. If AI systems can identify moments of distress, financial need, developmental insecurity, or dependence, then vulnerability becomes dynamic and contextual. The next lecture turns to Chapter 8, where the book looks towards reform, fair patterns, and the future free of manipulation.